Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and Wizards decided to release way too many spoilers, so I'm going to burn through them because most of them are highly disappointing. Also, I was supposed to be to bed 10 minutes ago. First up, we got Apex Altasaur because somebody at Wizards has some kind of weird dinosaur fetish all of a sudden. It's a 10-10 for 9. Ooh, Value Town, and when it enters the battlefield, it fights up to one target creature you don't control, then it has Enrage. Whenever it's dealt damage, it fights up to one target creature you don't control. So, interesting, but also cost 9, and in the world of Commander, there are better things that cost 9, to say the least. Also, barely enough dinosaur cards exist total in all colors to even make a dinosaur Commander deck, so this is a pointless waste of space. Next up, a 50-cent reprint, Bane of the Living. It's a 4/3 for 4, insect that has morph, double black X, so that's the cost to flip it back over, and then when it is turned face up, all creatures get -X until end of turn. So X could be 0. So kinda neat, except it's all creatures, so he'll hit himself at 3 or above, but whatever. It's maybe a creature, and then maybe a board wipe. Kinda odd, but interesting. You know, it's not odd or interesting, the fact that for morph creatures, they're just doing reprints, regardless of value or how many times they've been printed before, because coming up with new cards is hard, you guys. It's Commander, literally anything goes. You basically need no playtesting, just come up with some crazy-ass morph creature and throw it in. So next up, Chrome Shell Crab, which looks freaking awesome. Totally reminds me of that Travel to the Future episode of SpongeBob. And it's a 3/3 for 5 with morph 5. And whenever it's turned face up, you may exchange control of target creature you control and target creature an opponent controls. Neat. I believe that's called a switcheroo effect, and switcheroo is a very underappreciated card. I like it. I think that's pretty good, and that's pretty appropriately costed. Next up, oh boy, double check lands, yay! So Cinderglade, just to give you an idea, it's from BFZ, and it's currently $3, and people are anticipating that it's going to be about half that in this Commander set, so hooray for accessibility. These are actually quite good in Modern, in some decks. So that's cool, but did we really need a reprint? But then again, they work great in the decks that they're in, like for Commanders. So, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I mean, people are saying, oh, where's the value? Well, who cares? I mean, the point is not to buy them and strip them apart for singles. Don't tell Wizards that, because they always make sure they put like $80 worth of cards in each one, but at the end of the day, you need the decks to work, and they're triple colors, so you're going to have to put in some stuff like this, so it makes sense. Next up, we got a reprint where the Dragons of Tarkir version was only $1.60. Not so at the time. This card was ban-worthy at the time, but yeah, it's Death Mist Raptor. It has Death Touch. It's a 3/3 for 3, double green, which is a little rough considering what deck it goes in. And whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you may return Death Mist Raptor from your graveyard to the battlefield face up or face down, and then it has Mega Morph 5, so you can flip it with a counter on it. You may be thinking, well, that's neat, but what the hell? Like, this was like a $20, $30 card at the time? Yeah, it was. This is back when Standard was, I hate to say it, but almost kind of under control. I mean, this is Dragons of Tarkir we're talking about. But it really goes to show what the power level of Standard is at right now, and I think we need to take it down about 11 pegs, because it's kind of reminding me of Modern and not in a good way, and it's kind of suppressing anything lesser than a Tier 1 deck, so very bad effects. But yeah, this used to be the king of Standard just because it would kind of come back from the graveyard sometimes. I think it's cool in the deck it's in, though. Next up, Den Protector. Creatures with power less than Den Protector's power can't block it. It's 2/1 for 2. And then it has Megamorph 2, which is very reasonable. And then when it's turned face up, return target card from your graveyard in your hand. Any card of any type. Now that is just a damn good card to put in this deck. The problem is, it was in Commander 2016. It was in Dragons of Tarkir. It's only a 70-cent card. If you really wanted to double down on Morph, you could have just went and got this card, and they could have printed something new so that you have options, because there's not that many Morph and Mega Morph cards, and yet they're sitting there reprinting the same old crap over and over and over. Come on, Wizards. Next up, Gift of Doom. And that is exactly what the Finger of Death spell looked like in Dungeons & Dragons Online, by the way. So this is finally not a reprint. People are pretty excited about this. It's a 5-cost enchantment or enchant creature. And then enchanted creature has Death Touch and Indestructible. That's a fun little combo. And then Morph, sacrifice another creature. So the unmorph cost, yeah, I know you're kind of morphing it in from a blob into what it should be. I still consider it an unmorph cost. It just makes more sense to me. So the unmorph cost is just sack a creature. Straight up, no mana. And then as Gift of Doom is turned face up, you may attach it to a creature. So it's a morphing aura. There are very few of those. In fact, aura is probably none, but as far as morphing enchantments, I think there's like 1 or 2 or something. I don't know, might be more than that, but that's the only ones that come to mind. So that's pretty nuts. You could drop this out for 3, unmorph it for just sack a creature, and then attach it to whatever you want. Wow. Next up, Grismold the Dread Sower. Oh, how inclusive of them to use artwork resembling the average pro Magic player. I bet he identifies as a potato. Anyway, it's a 3/3 for 3 with trample, legendary creature, so could be a commander if you really wanted. Troll Shaman, those are always fun. And at the beginning of your end step, each player creates a 1/1 green plant creature token. You heard me, each player. And then whenever a creature token dies, put a 1/1 counter on Grismold the Dread Sower. Any creature token that anybody owns or controls. This is almost like a Selesnya Flood backup plan. I mean, this is like a really good card. I could totally see this being a commander. I love everything about this. It's fun, it's interesting, it's not too powerful, it's a unique, quirky, novel mechanic, and people could have fun and still do kind of powerful combo stuff with it. I mean, I love everything about it. Every card should be like this. Next up, Excedrin. What are we looking at? Well, this card is from Time Spiral, but it was also in Commander 2014, so they're starting to just reprint Commander to death because Masters is dead, which is uncreative, stupid, and suppresses value. But that said, this is a 5-cost illusion with star as its power and toughness. As it enters the battlefield, turn all other non-token creatures face down. They become 2/2 creatures. And then Excedrin's power and toughness are each equal to the number of face-down creatures on the battlefield. The problem is he's going to get weaker as you need to flip up stuff and use their effects to do something. If it's, stop your opponent from doing something or remove one of their creatures, well, that sucks. And then if it's, progress the game and get out stronger stuff with high Megamorph costs, well, not anymore, you're not, because you just made him smaller. But I will say, this guy legit could be absolutely insane, and it's the number of face-down creatures on the entire battlefield, no matter what player. And you turn all non-token creatures face down that everybody owns. I mean, this is so disruptive to a game and so annoying and so overpowered, and then when you kill him, they don't flip back over. So I believe the ruling that they failed to put on the card is that their unmorph cost is their mana cost. But it doesn't technically say that. I'm just citing that off of precedent, so who knows? Who knows what this will do? I love confusing cards where you immediately have to look them up in the database to see the rulings just to figure out how they work at a basic level. Thanks, Wizards. Yeah, I pretty much hate everything about this. Too disruptive, too annoying, too stupid, too game-ending, and also not good enough to actually win. Next up, Kyras Spell Snatcher, a card that literally nobody played when it was legal. It's a 3/3 for 4 with Morph 6, so that's never going to happen. When it's turn face up, counter target spell. If it's countered that way, exile it. And then you may cast a card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains... Or you may cast that card specifically without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled. It's plenty powerful, but it was too slow and too expensive for Standard at the time. So I'm glad they printed it in Standard, but this thing is worth absolutely nothing. But, every card can't be a winner. I mean, if it was a $200 total value between all the cards, people would just buy them and open them, and nobody would get to play with them and enjoy them. So they got to put in some powerful but worthless cards. Next up, Nantuko Vigilante. It's a 3/2 for 4 with Morph 2. And when it's turn face up, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So there you go, a little naturalized creature that costs way too much, no matter how you bring it out. But that's the point. It has naturalize attached to it. Next up, Pendant of Prosperity. It's a 3-cost artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, or it does enter the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. This is where stuff gets weird. There's a lot of artifacts that do stuff like this, actually. Pay 2, tap it, and then draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, which is pretty much useless in Commander. And then Pendant of Prosperity's owner draws a card. Then that player may put a land card from their hand onto the battlefield. So you're the owner, you're just placing it on a player as a controller. So they activate this ability, and then you get that second half of the trigger. This is stupid, worthless, pointless. Even in a landfall deck, you'd have a stretch to make this do anything, because you never, after about turn 5, have more than one land in your hand. You would have to draw an average of 6 cards to make that happen. It's virtually impossible. Yes, there are ways to return lands to hand. Yes, there are ways to go fetch lands out of your library. Cool, but this is so narrow now, it's dumb. Plus, it lets your opponent do the same. What the hell? They could just never activate it too. I will say though, it's recurring card draw for 2, but you're also giving that to your opponent, so I'm going to call that a wash, because otherwise that would be insane, but this is stupid. Next up, we got Rascally First of the Fallen. It's a legendary creature, mythic. By the way, if I remember correctly, if they're doing this year, this will only be in foil, because I think they made the other potential commanders within the deck foils. So that's kind of annoying, but yeah, he's triple color, 4 cost, 5/4, legendary creature vampire, and if a non-token creature would die, exile that card with a blood counter on it instead. As long as an exiled creature with a blood counter... As long as an exiled creature card with a blood counter on it has flying, Rascally First of the Fallen has flying. The same is true for first strike, double strike. You guys know how this crap works. We've had keyword mimicking cards before in Standard. They're hilarious. In fact, the one that did the graveyard was actually pretty popular. It's kind of cool, but you have to build your whole deck around him, and then you got to get stuff killed on purpose. This is pretty dumb, honestly. Plus, Wizard, seriously, I'm not even messing around. Enough with the damn vampires. We are sick of vampires. Next up, we got Scroll of Fate. I could have sworn this was an existing card that I used in a deck that used charge counters. I guess not. Must be Scroll of something else, I don't know. But this is an artifact, it's 3 costs, and you just tap it and then manifest a card from your hand. From your hand, not the top of your library. Yeah. Oh, and that's free, by the way. So have a spell you don't need yet? Cool, make it a 2/2 creature and put it to work. Have a creature that you want to be a surprise, but you can't afford it yet? Have like a 7-cost boat anchor in your opening hand? Cool, just use this. Drop it in, get some use out of it. This is just good. Plus, manifesting is just tricky. Now, if that 2/2 dies, you lose the card. So manifesting, that's why it didn't really take off too much in Standard, but it's still pretty cool. Especially when the whole deck is like face-down mechanics. Next up, Stratos Dancer. I personally like this card. It's a 2/1 for 2 with flying and Megamorph, but only Megamorph 2. And then when it's turned face up, counter target instant or sorcery spell. Holy crap, that's like half a negate. And it's 4/2, and you get a creature out of it, and if you bother to drop it in for 3 instead of 2, then you can flip it for 2. It becomes a 3/2 with permanent flying. I mean, this thing is crazy. I absolutely loved this card. It almost made the cut on my Beholder Alpha 3.0 deck. But the spot went to Judge's Familiar. Sorry, it's just a better card. Next up, Stronach Resonator. Now this was worth a little bit of money till it was in Masters 25. Now it's about $4, and they're anticipating it being closer to $1.50. I think that's optimistic when this commander set comes out. But yeah, it's at 2 costs, and then you pay 2 and tap it, and then copy target triggered ability you control. So it has to be a triggered ability, an ability with a trigger, not the trigger isn't, oh, I paid 2 mana and tapped it. No, it's literally an ability triggered by a condition or an event or whatever. I can't believe people still get that wrong. And then, of course, you may choose new targets for the copies. So you can't fully control it, but it only costs 2. I hate that you have to pay 2 instead of just tapping it because it's so rare that this would go off. But with the right cards, oh my gosh. And ETB is considered a trigger. That's the cause entering the battlefield. And you could do like Chupacabra, boom, kill 2 creatures. You can accelerate a mill deck if you're both a maniac and an asshole playing that in Commander. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with this. Next up, Sudden Exchange. It's a 4-cost split second instant. Interesting. That's not the actual subtype, but it's split second. I believe that just means it can't be countered. The reminder text is in Russian, so, you know, apparently I need a reminder. But exchange control of target non-creature spell and target creature. What? You may choose new targets for the spell. So they throw a spell on the stack, and then you control it, and then in return you give them one of your target creatures. Or you really want one of their creatures, so you throw a spell on the stack, and then you give them the spell, and then you take their creature. I believe it works both ways. This is very unusual. So I believe the actual terminology for split second is like nothing can go on the stack above this, so it cannot be responded to in any way. Basically, all other instant speed stuff are treated as sorcery, where they can't go on the stack above this, so it's like another layer of speed. It's like haste for spells. So it basically can't be countered except by rule or by like an existing non-stop effect, like a perpetual thing. So yeah, this is crazy. I mean, it only costs 4, that's pretty low, but it is double blue, which is a problem in a 3-color commander deck. That's why you should always stick to 2. I mean, stealing your opponent's commander with this, boy, they're going to have a hell of a time getting it back, so this could be some fun. Next up, well, they can't hide behind Spanish because, one, I speak it, and two, we all know this is Thesbian Stage, okay? This was just printed in, what, Battle Bond? This is just so dumb. So it's a land, you drop it in, it taps for colorless, yay. And then if you pay 2, tap it, Thesbian Stage becomes a copy of target land and gains this ability. Here's how this card works. Oh, cool, I always wanted 2 of, oh, crap, no, that's legendary. If I can't clone Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, I'm not interested, and Cabal Stronghold isn't good enough. Screw this useless card. Next up, Thieving Amalgam, which that's some kind of lizard monkey or baboon, so that's fantastic. It's a 6/7 for 7, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library, but you manifest it. You're allowed to look at it, they aren't, by the way. And then whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, I wonder what that could be, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this is insane. I mean, it's kind of a shame it costs 7, but whatever, if you can get there, this card's nuts. Trust me, having manifested cards out there screws with combat, because if you have a line of 5 of them, you know which of those spells is amazingly good and powerful and relevant, and you are not going to block with it. So next up we got Thought Sponge. Good, get them thoughts out of here. Thankfully, they're kicking all the tit-streaming thought pieces of whole bag trash off of the new streaming thing that Ninja went to that nobody cares about because Microsoft is, well, it might as well just be Facebook running it, let's be honest. DLive is going to crush Mixer. That's just a fact. Anyway, begone thoughts, we've got a Thought Sponge. So it's a 1/1 for 4 with flash, so we're off to the races already. It's a sponge because of course it is. A lot of sponges have teeth and octopus mouths, that makes sense. And Thought Sponge enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest number of cards an opponent has drawn this turn. What? When Thought Sponge dies, draw cards equal to its power. Now we're talking, because you can boost this thing up, put some equipment on it, auras, counters, whatever. So if your opponent's drawing cards like mad, you're probably going to lose, and this isn't going to turn the game around, but okay, you could try. I mean, it has flash, so I think bare minimum it's coming out as a 2/2, and then you're going to draw, theoretically, 2 cards when it dies. So it's not terrible, but I usually make fun of cards that are like, if you're winning already and probably going to win without this card, ooh, win even more. It's just overkill, masquerading as an actually good card with synergy. This is like the opposite. This is like, well, if you're already screwed and your opponent drew 7 cards, well, throw this out. Maybe it'll do something. Probably not, but okay. Kind of makes it a bad card for surprisingly the same reasons. That said, it's not that bad of a card because of all those abilities. Next up, Trail of Mystery. I bought over 100 copies of this card and it went nowhere and I was pissed. So whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Nope, not into play, into your hand. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And I guess it's been in play, so it doesn't need haste then. In most cases. So yeah, it seemed like a damn good card to me. It only cost 2 and wasn't legendary. I'm like, I'm buying it because I bought him up the second that some kind of face down flipping mechanic was announced in the spoilers for the next set. And then this card went nowhere and nobody played it. Should be good in that deck though. Next up, Vesuvian Shapeshifter. It's a 0/0 for 5 and it enters battlefield, or when it's turned face up, you may choose another creature on the battlefield. If you do, until Vesuvian Shapeshifter is turned face down, okay, it becomes a copy of that creature, except it has at the beginning of your upkeep, you may turn this creature face down. Oh, interesting. So if something bigger and badder comes out, you can just morph it again, or unmorph it, I should say, for 2. A cloner that can reclone itself to something bigger if something bigger and badder enters play. That's insane. Also, it's any creature on the battlefield, your side, or an opponent. I love this card. Next up, Vollrath, the Shape Stealer. So we've seen him on more than a couple cards, but not this exact card. So he's another commander potential. 7/5 for 5 though, ooh. And at the beginning of your upkeep, on your turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Okay, and then if you pay 1 until your next turn, you can activate that multiple times. Vollrath, the Shape Stealer, becomes a copy of target creature with a counter on it, except it's 7/5 for power and toughness is what it should say, and it has this ability. And it's not sorcery speed, so turn it into a 1/1 unblockable, swing, they fail to block. In response to them failing to block it, turn it into a 10/10. There you go. Also, he slowly withers, literally, your opponent's creatures. So, it's pretty neat. It's almost a shame he costs 5, but he kind of has to, doing crazy stuff like that. Also, everything I said about being a 1-1 unblockable and a 10-10 is completely wrong, but I'm too lazy to edit it out. He maintains 7-5, no matter what he is. That's actually kind of messed up, so you're kind of just fishing for like double strike, flying, lifelink, that kind of stuff. Next up, Rascally Unseen from Return to Ravnica. Ooh, she was also in one of the dual decks. So she's 5 cost, 5 loyalty, +1 until your next turn. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to Rascally Unseen, destroy that creature. That's pretty hilariously OP. And then -3, destroy target non-land permanent. That, in coordination with the +1, is ridiculous. Then we've got her -7, which is create 3 1/1 black assassin creature tokens with whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. This card is generally considered to be stupidly overpowered, but in Commander, I mean, okay, I mean, it's a high bar. Still, I mean, that is like the most powerful self-protection I've ever seen in my life, and then a -3 universal killer that can kill anything, and then her -7 just basically wins the game if they can't block. It's just stupid. I absolutely despise this card. Next up, we've got, I'm not even going to try, I don't know what the hell that says. It's either weird, crazy German forest portal, or it's a way of return. I don't know, my German's not that great. So it's a double green sorcery, and then choose 1, return a permanent card from your graveyard in your hand. Okay. Or put your commander into your hand from the command zone. So you get a little free cost there, or free cast, in that you don't have to pay his he died 8 times penalty. So not truly free. And then in Twine 2, you pay an extra 2 generic and you get both of them. So that's kind of neat. And thankfully that's it. Cool. This is going to be a day late. I'm going to have to edit this tomorrow. Awesome. So thanks for watching. Sorry I'm late, and I'll see you guys next video.